Some of history's greatest sailors crossed hundreds of miles of open ocean, lying flat on their backs, blindfolded, feeling the waves through their own skin. No compass, no map, not even open eyes. They weren't guessing. They were reading the ocean like a language. For thousands of years, sailors across the Pacific, and later the North Atlantic, crossed the largest ocean on Earth with no compass, no sextant, and not a single written chart. Some of these voyages covered more open water than New York to London. They did it in open canoes, using nothing but memory, the sky, and their own bodies. That blindfolded trick actually has a name: wave piloting. Waves don't just come from wind, they bounce off islands, bend around them, and collide with other waves days later. A trained navigator lying in the hull could feel 4 separate wave patterns crossing underneath him at once, patterns so subtle that modern GPS buoys dropped in the exact same water couldn't pick them up. One navigator explained it in 3 words: we navigate with our stomach. But that's not even the hard part. Before any of that, kids training as navigators had to memorize a compass, 32 points, each one a specific star rising or setting on the horizon. Nothing written down, just memorized, star by star, over years. Get one wrong out at sea, and you weren't a little off course. You were lost. Here's where it gets genuinely strange. Some Micronesian navigators didn't track their own progress at all. Instead, they imagined their canoe standing completely still, and the islands moving past them, like scenery outside a train window. They'd pick one island, invisible somewhere in the dark, and use it as a mental anchor to calculate exactly how far they'd traveled. It worked. Nobody's fully sure how a human mind holds an imaginary moving island in place for weeks at sea, but it did. Land gives itself away long before you can see it. Certain seabirds fly out each morning to fish, and always return to shore by dusk, so at sunset you just watch which way they fly home. Clouds do something similar. A lagoon under a cloud can tint its underside pale green, and one cloud that refuses to drift while every other cloud around it moves on, that's usually an island holding it in place. Some islanders even built physical maps for all of this, woven from sticks and palm ribs, with shells marking island positions. But here's the catch. Navigators never took these charts to sea. They were teaching tools, studied on land, memorized completely, and then left behind on shore. The sailors went out with nothing but what was now living in their heads. Thousands of miles away, on a completely different ocean, a different culture hit the exact same wall. Norse sailors in the North Atlantic could go days under gray summer skies with the sun completely hidden. Icelandic sagas describe a sunstone that could supposedly reveal exactly where the sun was hiding behind the clouds, using a property of light called polarization, which Europe wouldn't formally discover for another 800 years. Scientists have tested real crystals and shown the physics genuinely could work this way. Whether Vikings actually used one at sea is still disputed. No confirmed sunstone has ever been found aboard a ship, but if they did, they were reading light itself with a rock. So, does any of this actually work? In 1976, one man decided to settle the argument for good. Historians had assumed the Pacific Islands were populated by accident, canoes blown off course, drifting until they got lucky. A Micronesian navigator named Mau Piailug sailed a reconstructed double-hulled canoe 2,300 miles, Hawaii to Tahiti. 0 instruments, no compass, no charts, nothing but what was in his head. He landed almost exactly where he meant to. It was the first time that route had been sailed this way in over 600 years. But here's the one nobody can fully explain. For centuries, sailors across the Pacific have described a strange flashing light beneath the ocean's surface at night. Some call it underwater lightning. It streaks toward an island that's still completely below the horizon, sometimes more than 50 miles out, long before land is visible, audible, or smellable. Navigators used it to find home in total darkness. Western scientists only wrote it down for the first time in 1972. And to this day, there's no confirmed scientific explanation for what actually causes it. It's a real, repeatedly witnessed phenomenon, and ancient sailors were using it to navigate before modern science even admitted it existed. None of these sailors had writing, instruments, or anything we'd call technology. What they had was attention, a level of noticing the world that most of us have completely lost. It's easy to assume ancient means less capable, but these were some of the most sophisticated navigation systems in human history, running entirely inside people's heads, passed down through memory and story alone. And some of it worked so precisely, modern equipment still can't fully explain how. Maybe the real instrument was never the compass. It was just paying attention. If finding out how strange and how skilled being human actually is sounds like your kind of thing that's barely human every week, subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.